Hey everybody, it's Mrs. Fry. We are going to finish off this unit, that note packet that you have. So today we're going to be talking about government agencies as it involves healthcare. Believe it or not, our government and several government agencies have an impact on our healthcare. So we're going to talk a little bit about those agencies. Some of these things you may have heard of before. So first off, we're going to talk about world agencies that have an effect in healthcare, federal agencies, which means those are specific to our nation, and then local agencies, and then volunteer and nonprofit agencies. Okay, so if we start off, the World Health Organization, this is the agency that is involved with looking at the healthcare of the entire world. So the primary goal is to help people to attain the highest level of health possible. They are concerned about diseases like the coronavirus and Ebola and things like that. This is an international agency. It is sponsored by the United Nations, and it compiles statistics and disease outbreaks. So you may have heard of the World Health Organization with its involvement with the coronavirus. There's been all kinds of back and forth information with them and with our United States. But their overall goal is to try to help everybody's health. They have, if you look at their website, they have all kinds of statistics on their website. Now, you guys remember back when they had the Ebola outbreak in Africa. There are still some cases of Ebola that exist in our world. However, it's very limited. And here, if you click on this map, this just shows you when that whole outbreak was happening. It maps out those cases, which is kind of interesting. You could also look at new cases from 2016, and it would show you that information too. So not only does it have Ebola information, but it also has the most relatable, newest information as it relates to COVID in the world. So if you click on this little guy, by the way, this is the World Health Organization website. You could easily Google this and see this for yourself. It has all kinds of data on deaths and confirmed cases and things like that in the United States. So it'll show you country by country what those statistics look like. Okay, so that is the World Health Organization. It's concerned about the entire world. If we come back, now we're going to look just at our nation. So in our nation, government agencies that are involved in healthcare, first off, we have this big umbrella, and that is the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, or the DHHS. So this is a national agency, and then underneath of that big umbrella, these four things are involved. So first off, public health services. Public health services are overseen by the Surgeon General, which I got to meet him last year, Mr. Adam Jerome, and some of you guys, if you were at that conference at the Civic Center, he was also there. So public health services is a team of public health professionals, and the focus is to serve people who were underserved. So people who might, be more in poverty and things like that, or people who are often not focused on in our country. So that's what public health services involves. Okay, next up we have the CDC. You probably have heard of the CDC in recent news and things like that. So the CDC is concerned about monitoring and preventing the outbreak of disease in our country, in the United States. And so they actually have a website, and they have all kinds of information out there. If you take a look, these are the people that make the rules and the guidelines about the coronavirus and how to prevent the spread. But believe it or not, coronavirus is not the only disease that's happening in our country right now. There's all kinds of diseases, and the CDC has information about that. Not only that, but it has information about vaping and different problems that can happen to people. So if you look here, of course, the big headline would be COVID. And you can look here and it has information about how to protect yourself, when should you get tested, how to self-check yourself for symptoms. If you ever want to check this out yourself, you can go to the cdc.gov and they would have all kinds of information for you. So this is how to protect yourself. How does it spread? So it's spread from person to person, from being in close contact within about 6 feet. It's spread through respiratory droplets that are produced when a person coughs, sneezes, or talks, and those droplets can land on things. So that's why we are supposed to wash our hands and wear masks to prevent those droplets from traveling as far. So that's the CDC. And we come back here. Next we have the FDA, so the Food and Drug Administration. So if any of you guys have ever taken any kind of prescription drugs, or if any of you wear makeup, all of those things have to be approved by the FDA. And if you click on the FDA, they have a website as well. So, of course, the big headline, seems like on all of these pages, of course, is COVID. So it's just talking about how the FDA is trying to create some medications that can help fight COVID. So here it's talking about how people could donate plasma, and that could possibly be a life-saving drug for people who have COVID. So if people have had COVID and then they've recovered, their body starts to produce antibodies, and those antibodies can fight off infection. And so the FDA is looking at and has created some medications that involve people's plasma who have recovered from COVID. Kind of cool. All right, so that's the next one. Also, the National Institutes of Health. Okay, so this one, let's say your loved one has a very rare form of cancer, and there's not a whole lot of information out there. Well, people could actually research this on the National Institutes of Health website. But not only that, the National Institutes of Health comes up with all different kinds of new treatments and new drugs and things like that. They're the ones who find cures for diseases. So this is an actual building. It's at the CDC, which is in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's called Building 10. And in this little assignment here, I'm going to do a recording where you guys have can see what happens with the National Institutes of Health, the NIH. There's a building, Building 10, and they do all kinds of clinical trials to help try to save someone's life. So in this video, it's going to pause and it's going to link you to the National Institutes of Health. And there's a little video in there called First in Human. First in Human is actually a documentary. It's a complete, I think it's like a 3-hour documentary that you can probably search and find, but it's super duper interesting on how they do these clinical trials and what they do and how they research. So if any of you guys are interested in doing like a research career, you should look at that Discovery documentary called First in Human, and it's super interesting. And you can find pieces of this documentary in different places on the internet. So this is going to pause and it will link you to that. Once you're done with that video, you're going to come on back. It'll bring you right back to this activity. Okay, next up we have the Veterans Administration, or the VA. So people who have been in the military, or if they're veterans, they're eligible for care through the Veterans Administration. There's special hospitals and special clinics where veterans can go to receive free care. That is one of the benefits of sacrificing your time and many years of your life to the military. So you can see here the VA. So VA are for people who have actively served in the military or who are veterans. So there's different information here about healthcare and education and things like that. Okay. All right. Next up, on the local level, we have local health departments. So a local health department, an example of that would be, I need to change the name on this, but it's Bismarck-Burley Public Health. So Bismarck-Burley Public Health, that building is actually just on Front Street, just south of the school here. The main job of any local health agency is to inspect, inspect restaurants, and then they also provide immunizations. They will collect statistics about illnesses and local outbreaks. They will oversee environmental safety. They'll provide some school health education. Bismarck-Burley Public Health are also the people that are making the decisions or guiding the school board on when we should open up fully, or when we should just, if we should ever move to just a distance mode. They're the ones who gave the school board the advice that we needed to start in hybrid. So that's the public health aspect of it. So they give education with schools too. They also oversee elder care, so the people who are currently living in nursing homes and things like that. And then they also oversee home health care. Okay. Last slide right here. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about nonprofit agencies. So these are agencies that are volunteer, and you may have heard of some of these things before. So they don't typically receive government dollars. Instead, they get money from fundraisers and things like that. So these will provide services at all levels, state, local, or national. A lot of them are disease specific. So if you think about the American Lung Association, they put out pamphlets about lung cancer and things like that. March of Dimes, those are for people who are, or babies that are born prematurely. American Cancer Society, American Red Cross, those are involved in natural disasters and emergencies. The American Heart Association is involved with trying to prevent heart attacks and strokes. Easter seals are for people who have a developmental disability. And then the American Diabetic Association, obviously, it would be for people who are dealing with diabetes. So they provide, these volunteer services provide different services, like they will get funding for more research, education, equipment and supplies for people. By the way, there are way more volunteer agencies than just this. So there's, you know, the Leukemia Society, there's a Pediatric Cancer Foundation. There are seriously millions of volunteer nonprofit agencies. So these are supported by donations and volunteers. And if any of you guys have ever ran the turkey trot in town, you've been involved with a nonprofit agency, because all of that money from that race actually goes to support people for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And that supports people who have cystic fibrosis, which is another disease that we will talk about. So those are your nonprofit agencies. Okay, they get money from donations, and they are supported by volunteers. Okay, so that is it for this lesson. There's going to be a test next week. So you will be hearing more about that, and there'll be some links for reviews for that too. Okay, have a good day.